All right, so today I'm going to tell you a couple little funny stories about a guy I used to go to university with. Um, for privacy, let's just call him Danny Gaines. So, Danny was this big white boy that came from this notoriously racist county, but he wasn't anything like that. He was actually pretty cool, and we ended up being good friends. Unfortunately, after we graduated, we kind of lost contact, but at that time, he was a pretty good friend. I first met him my freshman year in university because he lived in the same dorm. We lived in the all-male dorm, Pocomoke, um, and sometimes the guys would play Halo or some other video games, and they'd all be together in one room, and I would see him in there and we play, or I would see him around at different parties. So I definitely knew who he was. Eventually, we became co-workers in the university IT department, and then we went on to be roommates in the same off-campus housing unit in a place called Old Zoo. If you went to Salisbury, you know Old Zoo. We didn't exactly run in the same circle of friends, but he came out with my friends a few times, and I would see him out at the bars or at different parties. But some nights, maybe a Friday or Saturday night, that we decided both of us we don't feel like partying, we pick up a couple beers and drink them at the apartment, and we play Splinter Cell or Rainbow Six co-op together until the early morning. And it became kind of a habit for us that around 3 o'clock in the morning, we would go to Royal Farms down the street 24/7. And we would go in there and order the fried chicken. And we did this so much that one day when we came in there, the guy was like, "Oh yeah, man, I'm happy y'all came in here tonight because I just threw y'all in a couple pieces because I just had a feeling y'all were gonna come in here tonight around this time. So hold on a minute, I got the fresh pieces about to come out for you." And I looked at Daddy and I said, man, we come here too much, bro. So as I mentioned, we both used to work for the university's IT department. And our job, we were classroom technology techs. So if something went wrong with the projector or a monitor wasn't turning on, the mouse isn't working, whatever problem happens in a classroom, it was our job to go out and try to fix it as quickly as possible so that the class can continue. So this job was really chill. It had a lot of downtime. If there were no problems, we were just chilling in the office. And the bosses would allow us to bring our laptops to do homework or to watch movies in the downtime. When the phone rang, we had to answer the phone call, listen to the problem, go out and fix it. But normally we took turns. There might be 3 or 4 students on shift. First call might be mine. Next call is Danny's. Third one is someone else's. And we just rotated like that. So it was a lot of downtime. So Danny decided to start taking advantage of this downtime on his shifts. And he started to bring in his whole computer tower, the whole tower. Because we worked in an IT office, there was a lot of tech and equipment around. So he would just bring the tower and plug in his computer to a monitor and grab a mouse and hook that up, and he would just sit there and play World of Warcraft. If you've ever seen anyone play World of Warcraft, you can hear it. It's the click, 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 the consistent clicking. And then Danny got a little too comfortable with that. The bosses hadn't said anything, but then he started to bring his headset, and he would be in there yelling and cursing at other players. And I mean, it was amusing for us, but the bosses didn't like that. And eventually they sent everyone an email saying, "Okay, guys, you can bring your laptops, doing homework is fine, watching a movie is fine, reading a book is fine, but no video games." And we knew it was directed at Danny, but they sent it to everyone. So that killed that for him. So no more video games. He couldn't bring the computer tower, no more World of Warcraft, not even the little PSP that he would play from time to time. So what bright idea did Danny come up with next to spend the downtime on his shift? Well, he started to just take naps. He would just lay his head down on the desk and just knock out. He would wake up if he heard the phone ring or if one of us woke him up to tell him, "Hey, I'm going out for something, listen up," or whatever it was. But he would spend most of the shift sleep then. So the bosses, sometimes they would come down into our office to get things or to chat with one of us. And of course, eventually they saw him sleeping. And it wasn't just like a one-off thing. It was, a consistent thing. They got back to the big boss. And we got another email saying, okay, guys, no napping. You cannot nap on shift. So Danny got a little smart about it. In order to enter that particular office, you had to slide a key card. It was like a hotel door lock. And once it authenticated, it made like a little mechanical sound as the lock was opening. So he would always sleep at the desk closest to the door, and he, I guess, programmed himself to hear that mechanical lock opening. Whenever he heard the key card slide into the lock and that mechanical sound, he would pop up. He would pop up, and it was hilarious. Sometimes we would just bust out laughing because one of the bosses would come in, and suddenly he's just like up like a rocket, and like looking around like nothing is happening. And the rest of us are seated, chilling. We're laughing. And you could tell that he was asleep because he looked like a person that just woke up. Eyes are a little red, they look a little lost, and sometimes he would even have the imprint on the side of his face of his jacket or his sleeve or whatever he was resting his head on. So it was pretty obvious, he was sleeping. The bosses might not have seen it, but they knew what he was doing. So he got a warning. They were like, hey, we told you before, no napping on shift, and we have seen that you continue to nap. So what did he do? He got even smarter. As I mentioned, that this job was pretty chill, um, if you didn't abuse it, that they allowed us to take a walkie-talkie if we were going to leave the office. So this was pretty nice because sometimes if you were hungry or you needed to talk to a professor during his office hours, but it happened to coincide with your shift, it's okay. You can just grab a walkie-talkie, go get yourself something to eat, or go talk to the professor, whatever, come back. Because if there's a problem, they'll just tell you on the walkie-talkie, hey, Jordan, what building are you in? Okay, could you take a look at this problem we're having in Holloway or whatever? It was cool. So Danny would start to grab a walkie-talkie and disappear. And the assumption was that he was going to an empty classroom or some empty space somewhere in university, and he's taking a nap. And I guess he would keep the walkie-talkie on, so if he hears chatter or his name, he'll wake up and respond. So one day during a summer semester, Danny did exactly that. He took his walkie-talkie and he disappeared. Where did he go? Well, he went to a computer lab, an empty computer lab, and he laid down on the floor and he went to sleep on the floor of the computer lab. Why he chose that particular location to take a nap, I don't know. Because this was summer semester, most of the campus is empty. He could have gone to any number of classrooms and found a spot more comfortable to take a nap. But anyway, there he is, laid out on the floor in one of the computer labs. It just so happens that the help desk has cameras in all of the computer labs on campus, of course, just because of theft or safety or whatever. And someone spots Danny, they don't know who he is, but they spot someone laying on the floor in the computer lab. So they think, oh my goodness, it's a medical emergency. They call the campus police. Campus police heads to the computer lab, but he's gone. Somehow or another, he had just woken up on his own before the police came. So they found no one. The big boss of the IT department caught wind of this and came down to the help desk and said, okay, let me see the footage. And he said, oh, that's the boy. That's the boy I always see outside of the classroom tech office on his cell phone. Because it's true, he would frequently be on his phone outside of the office too. So he was recognized. So the big boss went to talk to our boss, and I'm walking across campus to go fix a problem, and I hear on the walkie-talkie, are there any student technicians today wearing a red shirt? I wasn't, but I remember Danny was. So anyway, I go back to the office, and in comes Danny in his red shirt and his face just as red as his shirt. And I'm like, what happened? And he told me he got suspended. If I remember correctly, he got suspended for a week. They suspended him for a week for that incident. So our boss was highly embarrassed about that. So she was pretty hot with Danny for making her look bad in front of the big IT boss. So another day in the IT office comes Danny. We all greet him. Hey, Danny, what's going on? How are you? He sits down, pulls out his laptop, and as soon as he opens the laptop, all you hear are like sex sounds. It's pornography. He immediately shuts the laptop, but the sound doesn't stop. We still hear it. And of course, we're like, it was three of us in the office at that time. We were in tears laughing. He is so embarrassed. He flips the laptop over, pulls the battery out, and then it stops. But by then, we were just in tears laughing. He was so embarrassed, but I don't know. It's just one of those Danny moments. So as I said, Danny and I didn't exactly run in the same circle of friends, though we were friends, roommates, and coworkers. Um, he would go out with his group, and I would go out with mine. And he had a habit of going to this bar that was really popular at the time. It's probably still there. It's called Brew River. And he would go to Brew every Thursday night. And he would drive. And that was a really risky idea because one thing everybody knew about Brew River was the cops were watching it. Usually when that bar was closing, there were cops already in the parking lot to make sure nobody was fighting, but also to see who was going to get into a car. And of course, if they thought you looked a little intoxicated, they're going to stop you. And there you get your DUI there real quick in the parking lot. So I remember Danny one day in the office bragging and saying something along the lines of, yeah, I drink and drive from Brew River every week. They never get me. They're not going to get me. And I remember telling him, Danny, be careful. They're going to get you one of these days if you keep doing that. Nah, man, come on. No, I know what I'm doing. Okay. I want to say about 2 or 3 weeks after that conversation, he got a DUI driving from Brew River. No big surprise. Of course, that was a tough moment for him. But I remember asking him, like, so what did your parents say when they found out? Like, what happened? He was like, oh, they were upset. They took away my PSP. I said, what? They took away your PSP? They didn't take away the car? They didn't say they're not paying for your tuition, or they just take the PSP? That's it? So yeah, I just wanted to share a couple of little funny memories of this guy I used to go to university with. He was one hell of a character, Danny Gaines. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe.